In elite sports, there's a rule that almost never fails. If you reach the top, you'll be seen everywhere. Interviews, headlines, constant attention. But Kumar Sangakkara is an exception. One of the greatest batsmen in cricket history. A defining figure of the Sri Lanka national cricket team. Tens of thousands of international runs. Global recognition at the highest level. And then, he walked away. No scandal, no attempt to stay in the spotlight, no shift into a visible celebrity life after retirement. He simply stopped appearing the way people expected. And that's what makes this story different. How does someone who once stood at the center of global sport choose a life that is almost entirely private? The answer starts with understanding what his peak actually was. Because Kumar Sangakkara was never just a great player in the traditional sense. He was one of the most complete controllers of a cricket match in the modern era. The numbers alone make the case. Over 28,000 international runs across formats, more than 12,400 in tests, and 14,234 in ODIs, combined with elite averages of 57.40 in tests and 41.98 in ODIs. Add to that 38 test centuries and 25 in ODIs, and his place among the all-time greats is statistically undeniable. As captain, he also led the Sri Lanka national cricket team to the 2011 Cricket World Cup final, evidence of both performance and leadership at the highest level. But those numbers don't explain why he felt different, because what defined Sangakkara wasn't dominance in the obvious sense. It wasn't power-hitting or highlight-driven moments that shaped his legacy. It was control. He approached cricket the way a strategist approaches a system, not reacting to the game, but shaping it. Not trying to impress, but trying to dictate. Observers often described him as a stylist, known for his elegant drives and technical precision. But that label only captures the surface. Beneath it was a player constantly processing information, reading field placements, adjusting tempo, and constructing innings with patience rather than urgency. Batting at number 3 made that role even more critical. It's a position that demands stability after early wickets, and Sangakkara became known for absorbing pressure, slowing chaos, and turning fragile situations into controlled ones. He didn't just score runs. He organized the innings. And that's where his real peak existed. Not in moments people remember, but in outcomes he quietly controlled. That's the twist. His greatness wasn't built on spectacle. It was built on the ability to manage everything around him. And once you see that, something becomes clear. Because when your entire career is built on control, on understanding when to accelerate, when to pause, when to step away, that mindset doesn't disappear when the game ends. It carries forward. Which leads to the next question. If Sangakkara spent his career controlling the game, what happens when he starts applying that same control to his life? If that same mindset carried beyond the field, it had to show up somewhere before retirement. And it did. At Lord's, on July 4th, 2011. Standing at the Marylebone Cricket Club, Kumar Sangakkara wasn't speaking like a player celebrating the game. He was speaking like someone who had already stepped outside of it, someone who could see how it actually worked. In his Spirit of Cricket lecture, he pointed to a turning point. After Sri Lanka's 1996 World Cup victory, television money and sponsorship flowed into Sri Lanka cricket, transforming it from a largely voluntary structure into what he described as a multi-million-dollar organization. But that growth didn't come clean. He outlined what followed: boardroom politics, power struggles, corruption, wasted resources, and political interference. In his words, accountability and transparency were lost in a mad power struggle. He went further, criticizing how influence within the board could be controlled through proxies, allowing partisan cronies to gain power and misuse it. This wasn't a safe speech. It wasn't designed to protect relationships or avoid discomfort. and the reaction made that clear. According to ESPN Cricinfo, the lecture received a standing ovation at Lord's, but also created tension back in Sri Lanka, where officials were reportedly unsettled by the direct criticism of cricket governance. He didn't stop at Sri Lanka. He warned about narrow self-interest in global cricket, emphasized the importance of protecting Test cricket, and called for stronger resistance to corruption, issues that remain relevant well beyond that moment. What stands out isn't just what he said, it's where he was standing when he said it. Still an active player, still part of the system, but already thinking beyond it. And once you see the system, that clearly something changes. Because leaving the field is no longer just about ending a career. It becomes a decision about how you want to exist outside of that system. And for Kumar Sangakkara, that decision showed up in the most difficult place possible, knowing when to stop. He retired. Not because his performance declined, not because he was forced out. He walked away while still at the top. In June 2015, during a test series against Pakistan, Sangakkara announced he would end his international career after the first 2 tests against India in August. At 37, he remained one of the most dependable batsmen in the world, with a test average above 57. He had initially planned to retire after the 2015 World Cup, but stayed on briefly at the request of selectors. That detail matters. Because this wasn't a player being phased out. This was a player choosing the exact moment to stop. He explained it directly. "I wish I could keep on playing, but I know when the time comes you have to go, and I know this is my time." He made it clear he didn't want to block opportunities for younger players or continue for personal reasons. And that decision separates him from most. Because many athletes don't leave on their own terms. They hold on, hoping for one last season. Or they are pushed out when form disappears. Sangakkara did the opposite. He controlled the ending. Even the way he exited reflected that mindset. His final test came at Galley, where he received a guard of honor from India, and then he stepped away, calmly, without turning the moment into something bigger than it needed to be. Quietly, deliberately, without trying to extract one last version of visibility. Because for him, the decision wasn't about staying relevant. It was about leaving at the exact point where control was still his. That same sense of control doesn't disappear after retirement. It just moves somewhere else. In Sangakkara's case, it shows up in the way he builds his living space. The most recognized home associated with Kumar Sangakkara in Sri Lanka is number 77 Lane Bon, located inside Gale Fort, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But this isn't a typical celebrity mansion. It's a carefully restored holiday home, sometimes available as a luxury villa through hospitality groups and villa platforms. What stands out first is the time behind it. The project took nearly 6 years to complete. Less about speed, more about precision. The house blends Dutch and Portuguese colonial architecture with modern interiors and contemporary Sri Lankan art, preserving the building's original identity while making it fully livable. You see it in the details. Distressed walls are left intact, carrying the texture of history. High ceilings follow traditional Dutch colonial proportions, and instead of replacing the past, the design works around it. Inside, the layout doesn't revolve around display. It revolves around use. A central living room, a dining space designed for shared time, a games room, a media room, practical, intentional spaces. But the real center of the house isn't inside. It's the courtyard and the terrace, areas where people naturally gather, spend time, and slow down. Spaces built for presence, not performance. The interior reflects the same thinking, a curated collection of contemporary Sri Lankan art. Furniture that balances global design influences, such as pieces associated with restoration hardware, with local craftsmanship. The result feels refined, but not distant. Luxurious, but still warm. Outside, the house opens into a private pool and a small garden within the courtyard. Contained, quiet, and completely removed from public attention. The design team behind the project, interior designer Anika Fernando, along with architects Murad Ismail and Jawaka da Silva, had already worked with the family on their Colombo residence. That continuity shows in the approach, consistent, thoughtful, and focused on how the space will actually be lived in. And that's where the meaning of this house becomes clear. It isn't built to showcase success. It's built to protect it. After a career defined by controlling pressure, timing, and outcomes on the field, Sangakkara creates a space where those same principles apply. Only now, they shape daily life instead of a match. From controlling the game to controlling the environment around him. And once that environment is stable, everything else begins to follow. After years defined by performance, expectation, and constant evaluation, he returns to roles that don't require any of that. Not a captain, not a public figure, just a husband and a father. He met his wife, Yahali, during their school years in Kandy. They married in 2003 and later had twins, Swairi and Kavith, born in 2009. Yahali, who was once a model, has built her own path as an interior designer with an independent business, while remaining a steady presence throughout his career, traveling with him on tours and supporting him through its highest and most demanding moments. What stands out isn't visibility, it's consistency. Because unlike many public figures, Sangakkara has kept this part of his life deliberately quiet. There's no attempt to turn family into content, no overexposure. Even on his personal Instagram, @SangaLeftHander, family moments appear rarely, and when they do, they feel private rather than performative. That pattern reflects something deeper. Because for someone whose identity was once defined in front of millions, family becomes the one place where identity doesn't need to be performed at all. No need to prove anything, just presence. And that shift matters. Because after the world spends years telling you who you are, measuring, analyzing, celebrating, you eventually reach a point where the most valuable space is the one where none of that applies. That's where family moves from being part of life to becoming the center of it. And in that space, something changes again. Because once you no longer need to prove who you are to the world, you start to redefine what success actually means. And for Kumar Sangakkara, that redefinition doesn't look like stepping away from the top. It looks like staying there, just without the noise. From the outside, it's easy to assume he disappeared. No controversy, no constant presence on social media, no visible attempt to build a post-retirement celebrity lifestyle. But the reality is different. He never left the peak. He just changed how he exists on it. After retirement, his influence remained deeply embedded in the structure of the game. He became president of the Marylebone Cricket Club from October 2019 to 2021, the first non-British individual to hold that position. He continues to serve within MCC's World Cricket Committee, including leadership roles that shape global cricket discussions. At the same time, he maintains a strong presence in the modern game, just in a different form. A leading voice in commentary with Sky Sports, director of cricket and head coach of Rajasthan Royals, a participant in structural efforts to reform Sri Lanka cricket. These aren't symbolic roles. They carry influence, responsibility, and long-term impact. Financially, the structure is just as stable. Income streams from commentary, coaching, and business, including involvement in real estate through ventures such as Crystal Property Group, create a system that doesn't rely on visibility to sustain itself. And that's where the shift becomes clear. Because wealth, in this version of his life, doesn't need to be displayed. It's not built on cars, public luxury, or constant attention. It's built on stability, on control, on the freedom to choose how and when to engage. The same principle that defined his career now defines his life. On the field, he controlled the tempo of a match. Off the field, he controls the pace of his life. No dependence on public validation. No need to perform continuously to maintain relevance. Just a system that works, quietly, consistently, and on his own terms. What do you think about Kumar Sangakkara's journey? From controlling the game at the highest level to quietly controlling his life beyond it? Does success have to be loud, visible, constantly proven? Let us know your thoughts. And more importantly, what do you take from his story? Because sometimes the real peak isn't when the world is watching you. It's when you no longer need it to.